We'll now go to the second and final part of our discussion on sanitary pads. We join Janet Bogo on the Talk Studio. Janet.
Right, thank you so much for that, Hussein. Even during the break, the panelists have been discussing putting each other to task, particularly Beatrice and Jane, asking each other quite a few questions because you feel, and a few people on social media, government, they're still not satisfied with the fact that we don't really know where the funds went. Some people saying, is it not painful to see the fact that they're using goat hides, and some even comparing to buying lavish cars and houses and trying to equate that and say, is there no way anything can be done right away to make sure that these girls go back to school? I know that I gave you a chance to answer that earlier on, but has this brought some kind of new revelation to you, seeing these pictures and you thinking this actually needs to change today?
Yes, Janet, I concur with you. It's really sad. In fact, I'm very, very sad to hear this. But again, I think we also need to accept that the government is doing too much for the parent. Really, the parent also has a responsibility. The parent has to come in and see how these girls can be taken care of in terms of sanitary towels.
If the parent can't afford it, though, what happens then?
Well, we cannot say that the parent cannot afford. I want to believe that much as we are using sanitary towels, we have different types of sanitary towels, and the manufacturer here can attest to that. There are some that are cheaper that a parent can afford. And yet, again, even if the parent cannot afford, like somebody put it in Twitter, we can have schools come up with the income generating activities, and that money can be used to buy for the girls sanitary towels. Again, we have people like you, the media. What is the media doing? You're highlighting all this. But again, you also have a responsibility of rescuing those girls.
Well, we got involved. We got involved. You saw that. You saw Judy trying her best to, it's a short-term solution. At the end of the day, the government, it does feel like the buck stops with the government. That's a general feeling across the board, in the sense that, yes, people can play their part, but the funding, ultimately, and the major funding comes from government. But you've mentioned that, and I just want to quickly move to you, Regeru. Now, talking to you as a father and as a man, we mentioned earlier on how taboo it was, you know, going around the office. What are men doing about this? It almost seems, to some extent, and I could be wrong, that you sort of stand back and say, that's the woman's issue, we don't really want to be involved.
Well, Janet, I must say I'm privileged to be a man, the only man among the distinguished ladies, talking about this subject, which from times immemorial has been a taboo subject, full of mystery. And men have kind of left this issue to the women folk. But now this has changed. In my travel around the country, where I have been throughout the distribution to oversee the distribution and the success of the program, where we have partnered with the Ministry of Education, I have seen a change of attitude with men. We are yet to get there, not there yet, but a big change, because I have been there when things used to be very bad. Now things are looking up. You'll go to the supermarket, you'll see a father picking some sanitary pads, some Flora sanitary pads for their daughters. You are going to see in our training programs, in our partnership with Girl Child Network, where we have training. All this distribution is complemented by training. Men play a major part. In fact, we have male trainers. In the training sessions, the men are very proactive. You will find that in these sessions, it's 50-50.
Right, so they're coming out a lot more.
They are coming out a lot more than has been the case in the past.
We certainly want to see that. Let me go back to you ladies, and I know earlier on, you know, we've already talked to Jane, and she's saying, in as much as she agrees that a lot more needs to be done, there's still the element of teachers and parents also need to be involved. You're from an area that's marginalized to a large extent. We saw some of the girls that had never even seen a sanitary towel. So what do you have to say to that when she says parents and teachers, the onus is also on them?
As much as I look at it, I think those parents, they don't have the materials, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the capacity. They don't have the capacity. Why I'm saying they don't have the capacity, most of those girls come from poor families. So if you said parents can do it and they're from poor, they're poor, I don't know how they are going to do it unless as the government, you come in, help as we come up with other projects. Because you have said we come up with projects. Now, can you come in, then we come up with projects. Like in my school already, we have started a project. We have a greenhouse, and this greenhouse was donated by Red Cross, and I think out of that we are going to do it. Now, that is one school among 50 schools in the district, or among hundreds of schools in the county. So what are we going to do about it? Okay, who is going to fund this? If given that some of the schools are from poor areas, so what are you going to do as a government so that we can sustain ourselves?
So that it's not just short term. Before we go to you, another question is, there's also been a lot of questions about hygiene and how this ultimately affects the girls' health and self-esteem. If you could very quickly tell us what it is that you see in those classrooms all the time. These girls are actually sharing and borrowing this hide from married women. That's certainly set to have really dire consequences in terms of hygiene. What have you seen happen?
Most of the girls have fallen sick because of what they are sharing. They are sharing the skins with grown-ups because it's a taboo for a unmarried girl to use it. When they come to school, like they have stayed home for some time, when they come, boys laugh at them. When they're at home, they're secluded from the family. They cannot do any work. So people laugh at them, and when they look at that, most of them just drop out because of shame.
So you've seen a lot of them drop out because the self-esteem is completely broken.
Yeah.
Are you trying to do anything for these girls, trying to encourage them, trying to let them know that, you know, just encourage them over what they're going through?
Yeah, that is what I'm doing. Through girl guiding, we are doing that. And some of the girls that have dropped out of school, at least we have started projects with them. They're having a project, and we feel in the near future most of the areas will have the same projects.
Okay. Yeah, and what about panties? That's also a big issue because you can have the sanitary towels, but without the panties, it doesn't add up. So what are you trying to do in terms of trying to make sure that the sanitary towels and panties going to that area?
Now, like when I go around soliciting for the sanitary towels, what I tell the donors is they have to put in the pants, so that when you are issuing the sanitary towels, a girl also goes with a pant. Like what I did last year through Red Cross, we were given sanitary towels for 3 schools, as I said. And then these sanitary towels were only enough for 15 girls for the whole year.
Yeah.
But what we did, we were not only we are not giving out to the 15 girls. We are giving out to those girls that are needy.
Okay. Siama, let me... Right.
Teachers identify these girls. It's not me, or it's not the head teacher. They're all teachers identifying in a staff
The ones
meeting.
who are most needy, I think, is what's usually said. You were talking earlier to me about the dangers of these girls having to prostitute themselves to get money to buy the sanitary towels. Now that you're aware of these dangers, what are you doing as a mom, particularly in the area of Kibera, to ensure that, you know, your daughters stay out of this kind of danger, and that girls in that area as well don't succumb to that kind of pressure and, you know, fall victim to HIV/AIDS and pregnancies? What are you doing to prevent that?
Just like I'd shared with you earlier, you know, in our small group here, what we do is contribute a small amount of money, which is not actually enough. It's very, very, very little. And we identify girls and, okay, supply them with the sanitary towels that they need, but it is not enough. So you see, we have to stretch further into our even house budgets, you know, so that we keep the girls out of child prostitution. Because you see, there's some mothers, or rather, I'll say mothers because most times the fathers are not very, very much involved. Most of the mothers, some mothers don't have anything to do. What they do is just casual labor. And then you find that and there's some broken homes where mothers will just tell their daughters, you go and do what I do to get money to cater for your needs. Then the children go into, if they don't work as child laborers, they become child prostitutes. And once they do that, they obviously drop out of school. Because of course they've found ways of whatever they want to make money, and they have what it takes to make money, so they just drop out of school because they can provide for their own needs.
Yeah, this is certainly something that we can discuss at length. Unfortunately, there's not much else we can go on. You've heard Jane, and I'm turning to you because you're here on behalf of the government. You've heard Simone, you've heard Beatrice, and you know that a lot more needs to be done now rather than later. People saying, forget saying that there are projects underway. What happens to now? What happens to those thousands and millions of girls who don't have anything? So hopefully we'll start to see something different. We'll start to see a change, and you'll be able to break that news to us that the dream of every single girl being able to access sanitary towels will actually come to life. So thank you all so much for your thoughts. This is certainly something that we'll keep discussing. I know there's so many people who want to interact with each of you on a different level. We hope that we can make that possible for you. But for